Welcome to the platform. It is the pinnacle of all discussions right here on Flow 94.9 FM. This is the flow of God's own state. This is where we take a critical look at issues as it affect our dear nation, Nigeria, and also as it affect our dear state, Abia State. My name is Michael Oni. Today on the platform, we're looking at the judiciary in review. The year is fast winding up, and of course it is time to do a sectoral review of some of the issues, some of the areas in Nigeria. And of course this year 2020 was momentous, you will agree with me, eventful, unique, and also peculiar and difficult in many ways. It altered many courses of history and changed the world in unimaginable ways. The global effect of the COVID-19 pandemic is still reverberating with its attendant negative impact on the economy, on traveling, on social and economic spheres. And of course, at least 1.7 million people globally have died as a result of the virus so far. And Nigeria is not left out of these undesirable consequences of COVID-19. But in addition to these unprecedented uprising by Nigerian youths in protest against police brutality, which created a fresh set of challenges for an already challenged nation. This year saw the emergence of new ways of professional practice, especially for the legal profession. One of the reasons we're taking a look at the year in retrospect. Final week of 2020, of course, it is the time of the year we do sectoral review of the year, looking back at the year in retrospect, lessons learned, and setting agenda for the new year fast approaching. And to say that 2020 has been the judiciary's like no other is an understatement. From court shutdowns to due to coronavirus pandemic to justice sector facilities vandalized by hoodlums in the wake of the NSAS protest, to an epoch-making emergence of Olumide Akpata as the Nigeria Bar Association president, to the short-lived splitter new NBA group. These, among others, were some of the major events that shaped the justice sector in 2020, and we will be finding meanings to some of these issues this morning on the platform on Flow 94.9 FM. My name is Michael Oni. Well, my guest is back home, I believe back home in Abia State, of course, for the festivity. If you've been conversant with the issues around the country, especially on national televisions, you must have, of course, heard of him severally. He lends his voice to some of the issues, of course, challenges facing the nation. In fact, especially when it comes to doing analysis on the legislative and, of course, judiciary matters. Barrister Monday Ubani is back into the studios of Flow 94.9 FM. Good morning to you, Barrister.
Mr. D, it's my pleasure to be here live
on Flow 94.9 FM. Welcome back home. I will say, interesting time this year. Let's look at the judiciary in focus. This year, 2020. The year began in the justice sector with that shocking sack of the former Imo State Governor, Emeka Ihedioha, and the Bayelsa State Governor-elect David Lyon by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And the Apex Court declared the Hope Uzodimma of the All Progressives Congress as the winner of the March 9, 2019 governorship election in Imo State. That unanimous judgment of the 7-member panel read by Justice Kudirat Kekereadu, the Apex Court agreed that results in 388 polling units were unlawfully excluded during the collation of the final result. And these judgments were received with mixed reactions across political divide. Till date, some Imolites do not even accept the governor of the state, Hope Uzodimma, as their governor. They say, no, we didn't vote for him, we're not going to accept him. While some persons are saying the rule of law stood its ground. I don't know what you make of what happened. It was at the start of the year. That was in the month of January. The Supreme Court shortchanged the Imo electorate.
The position is that whatever the law is usually pronounced by the court. And when you have a judicial system that the Supreme Court is the last court in the land, when that court has made the final pronouncement, whether you like it or not, you have to abide by that decision until maybe a similar case comes before the Supreme Court and an opportunity is being canvassed to overturn the earlier judgment.
Okay.
You know, If you remember vividly, there was an attempt made by the solicitors of Ihedioha, making Ihedioha to obtain that judgment. They went
back to Supreme Court,
and then remember that the Supreme Court, had to really was harsh and hard on the lead counsel, I think, and he was even fined for making that attempt to come before the Supreme Court to obtain a judgment that has been rendered by the Supreme Court, which is the final court of the land. So what I'm trying to say in effect is that it is a judgment we have to live with. But again, it also speaks volumes about the issue of contradiction between the people's mandate and then the court verdict. A situation where the people may have given their verdict, in terms of mandate, and then probably the court of the land obtains it, based upon some other, technicalities that are not known to the people, is something we have to look at. I have always canvassed that we should have a system that is clearly free, fair, and credible. That the electoral system that is free, fair, and credible, that will really require minimal, interference by the judicial sector. Judicial sector comes in only when it becomes very imperative that it should come in order to look at injustice that has been meted out, to any of the parties who are contestants to the electoral process, but not the way we get judiciary involved virtually in everything here in Nigeria. And most of them, you find out that are not done out of genuine intention. There are some other motives. Some people even use it to make so much money by going to court to contest an election which they know they actually lost. So what I'm trying to say, we must develop our electoral system to the point of allowing our electoral system to actually reflect its fairness and impartiality, that will make it very practically impossible for the judiciary to come in to obtain the mandate of the people.
Interesting. Barrister, wasn't it shocking? The Supreme Court of Nigeria is the highest and the final court of the land, and is not in the habit always reversing its decision, and in rare cases anyways, which is it has reviewed its decision, it was with absolute compelling reasons. Now, wasn't it shocking to you as a legal practitioner that some lawyers went back to the same Supreme Court, knowing the fact that it is the highest and the final court in the land, to obtain itself?
Yeah, they were citing some authorities where the Supreme Court had, in some instances, due to some mistake that he has made, because they are human beings, they're not God, they are human, and there may be some errors they may have made in the process of adjudication. So those things were pointed out to the Supreme Court. Speaker said no, there was no need for you to have come back, because the reasons for coming back were not there. There has been reasons where people have gone back to the Supreme Court even after the years.
I want to get it right now. It is not wrong to head back to the Supreme Court if you are not comfortable with a judgment delivered,
but on special grounds. Those grounds are specified by the court. It does not every matter, because there must be an end to litigation. There must be an end to adjudication of a case. So it's not after the Supreme Court has adjudicated finally on a case, you now begin to go back. There are special grounds that the court itself has also over the years formulated that makes it possible for any aggrieved party to come back to the same Supreme Court even after Supreme Court has given its final judgment on a matter. Are you following me? So
I'm getting
so if those grounds are not there, then you have no reason whatsoever to go back to Supreme Court, because if you do, you'll be really reprimanded, and if possible, penalized in terms of cost, which is actually what happened in that case. So there are special grounds under which you can, if there is any clerical error. They call it the slip rule. They made some mistakes, which, as I said earlier, is human. You can point it out that in the course of this particular judgment, this is a clerical error, this is a slip rule that has actually occurred. The court now will come in and correct themselves, because they are not infallible. They are they're only infallible because they are final, because they are final, yes, but they're not final because they're infallible. They're not. It's only God that is infallible.
All right, It says still the platform, and of course we're doing a review of the judiciary for the year 2020 in Nigeria, and we have the former second vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association very much in the studio, Barrister Monday Ubani. Now let's look at the impact of COVID-19 in this sector during the year in review 2020. Unsure of how to proceed and with normal court businesses at the advent of the coronavirus pandemic, most court heads directed shutdown for the first 2 weeks or more. That was in the month of March this year, and subsequently the federal government through the PTF, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, made public the COVID Regulations 2020. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, took the initiative, and we had something that has I don't believe it has happened before, virtual court proceedings during the year. But the question of practicability and constitutionality now came in during the year. Some persons are saying, how will you decide a matter virtually when maybe you're convicting someone to maybe a life imprisonment or a death sentence, and the person is watching it on maybe on a laptop? How possible is that? Let's look at the constitutionality and of course the practicability of this.
Well, the point is that it has been practiced. In fact, I think the first judiciary to sentence someone to date is Lagos Judiciary, and that was the first virtual proceeding that took place in Lagos State or in Nigeria. I mean, in terms of sentencing somebody to death. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic brought a lot of changes, in almost all the sector. For the judiciary, it became very imperative that physical contact, which is actually contrary to the protocols that has already been laid, will be impossible. So the best thing is what's the way out? Are we going to shut down the judicial system, which is very vital for the economy of the country? So people now started thinking that even before now, there has been serious advocacy for us to partner with technology, because the time will come, you don't need to travel from one place to another. In your office, in your house, you can conduct your legal duties successfely using technology.
Do you support the fact that we went virtual at some point?
Oh, of course, because if not, there would have been the backlog of cases. We were getting too much, and the judiciary became standstill, and that nothing was actually happening in that sector. The CJN had to issue a guideline that was followed by all other chief judges all over the federation.
At some point, the constitutionality of these particular virtual court proceedings were discussed severally by different across different strata, by judges, by lawyers also.
I even wrote about it. I was one of those that actually questioned the constitutionality, especially on the issue of public hearing. Because the court, the constitution itself, guarantees that anyone that is accused of a crime or anyone that has a judicial process to undergo within the judicial sector, it must be done within a public place where people can observe the fairness and impartiality of that judicial process. So we questioned the constitutionality, but the point was that the guideline or the regulations that were railed out in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic was as a result of a constitutional provision that gives the various CJs and the CJN, the right to do that. Rules and regulations were they were all having backing of the constitution, in order to meet the needs of the time. The needs of the time is that we need to go virtual, and if we have satisfied all the requirements of virtual, public hearing in terms of public space, which is enshrined in the constitution. What is the issue? Now they allow you to have a code to log in, both for the defendant and the claimant's counsel. Both the claimant also has a code to log in.
Okay.
Now the members of the public is also entitled to log in, because the code will be published on the website of the state judiciary. So if you want to watch the proceeding, you have a right also to log in. So that satisfies it because everyone is allowed. But in the public space, the world is no longer dealing with physical. We are now dwelling in the internet world. In fact, virtually every aspect of our life now is conducted on the internet world.
Looking at the system,
not physical, yes.
Looking at the system that we have in Nigeria, is it practicable?
It's practicable. The only thing is that you of course highlight some of the difficulties, which is part of in our system we talk about technology. Communication. We talk about energy, power. There are many communities that do not have what they call communication network. I'm coming from my village. Sometimes, clearly difficult for me to get to service, and it will be difficult for me to even engage in virtual proceeding from my village because of the network issue. So I can't even do that. So I have to come to Mahia for me to engage in all that. So what we are trying to say in effect that we must highlight those deficiencies and those difficulties that are peculiar to our environment, and then what do? We need to now advise that the government should do something that is very this in order to remove those limitations, because they would have to move with the world. The world is not going to wait for Nigeria. The world is running, and we are here now complaining of those teething problems and all that, militating against our progress. We should be able to tell government to deal with this issue, get our communication system all over the place, make sure that energy is everywhere, that people should have 24 hours light. And that is what goes on in developed economies.
The infrastructure in some of our courts does not even allow these fees.
So they must put them. They must all be this, and that's why also soliciting for independence of the judiciary. That they must have their money. They must have their money to know where they put their money, where their mouth is. Not issue of governors buying them vehicles and then probably advertising it and building houses for them. That is not. You give them the money so that they can make sure that they keep the judiciary, the courts with modern technology that will make this issue of this virtual thing we are talking about now very, very practicable. So it is important. We must insist on the right thing being done, and we're not going to wait. The world is not going to wait for us until we make it 100% before we begin to delve into what we are just discussing about. Because as I speak to you, I've had most of my cases on virtual. Yes, and of course I have conducted a proceeding. I have received also a judgment in which my client
how smooth
was very well. It was because maybe that day my network was okay. The judiciary network, the judge himself that was in chamber was okay. It's only one lawyer that had an issue with his own network, but eventually he joined us, one of the defendant's lawyers. So we had a very smooth this, and the court went ahead.
You can't have it as smooth as when you have physical gathering.
There is nothing. There's no doubt about that. As I'm saying, we are not going to have a situation. No. Most times they have not started with the issue of trial.
Okay.
Because the issue of physical evidence is also very key. What they have done with the virtual proceeding for now are most ex parte, most motions that are ex parte, most primary issues, judgment. Maybe adoption of written addresses and judgment and rulings. They have not actually developed a particular platform that will now accommodate issue of trial. We have not entered into trial, because issue of evidence, issue of observing the witnesses and all that by the judge and all that, we have to come in and all that. We have not gotten to that level, but for now we have limited it to those issues I've just mentioned, not yet to full trial. That is virtual proceeding for now.
Okay. Another issue that shook the judiciary during the year 2020, the year in review, is the issue of bribery, corruption in the judiciary. There was a report, ICPC report, Barrister Monday Ubani. The report says lawyers were mostly responsible for offering bribes for favorable judge, and an estimate of 9.4 billion naira was exchanged in bribe for judgment scheme in Nigeria's judicial sector between 2018 and 2020. The ICPC went on and said lawyers were mostly responsible for offering bribes for favorable judgments, mostly in the electoral and political matters. The report, entitled Nigeria Corruption Index, report of a pilot survey, measured the activities of corruption in 4 sectors: executive, legislature, judiciary, and the private business enterprise. And this report, the 4 sectors, judiciary led the methodology was experienced based rather than perception, was experience based rather than perception related questions of corruption as measured from a scale of 0 to 100%. I know we sought your opinion on this particular issue during the year that was on the platform, one of the editions of the platform, and you weren't so happy with this report.
Nobody
it indicted lawyers, and you're a lawyer.
No, nobody should be. But the point is that the man who conducted the process, the survey, has also come to say that it wasn't as if these things were physical, that they saw money exchanging, that it was just oral interview, and then they aggregated that and then put that figure.
But there was a sample collection here.
Now I'm saying now, who saw when these monies were? Before you do all that, you must measure a process of, okay, the money moved from so bank and then move into so bank or into so hand and all that, and you must see it physical. There was no one that was physical. Oh, we can pinpoint this particular sum of money from to a particular lawyer who carried this kind of money and then give. It was just interview that was done, an oral interview that was conducted. None of those this thing came as a result of physical seeing a lawyer who actually convinced, all the way Ghanaians did theirs.
Okay.
There was a particular this and that expose that was carried out by journalists in Ghana, where he followed the process of how bribery and corruption was thriving in Ghanaian judiciary.
Okay.
He followed the process from the first, from lawyers who were taking money and some of the litigants to judges, and then followed it into the judges, how the money, passed through into the hands of the judges and others. So, but this one, there was no such. You can't pinpoint any lawyer that is okay. Maybe this lawyer spent. So to me,
beyond the process now that brought about that report. Do you agree that the judiciary is the most corrupt of
I don't share that view. It's the most corrupt. No, I don't share that view. I'm in the sector, and I'm saying this as a Christian. I cannot stay here and begin to lie all in a bid to defend my particular constituency. We know agencies in this country that are so corrupt.
The rumor out there, and the belief of some Nigerians is that some lawyers do induce. I'm saying it's rumor, it's not confirmed. It's their allegation. Some lawyers do induce so that a judgment will favor their clients.
I have not been a party, and I will never be a party to ask a client to give me money in order to go and induce a judge. But I hear it also, just like you have heard as a rumor, that there are some lawyers who, even when charging their fees, also tell clients that a certain amount of money will be used to bribe the judges and all that, and it got a stage where these things were actually happening. I have been a victim where a judgment I expect in every proceeding and process, how the proceeding took place, but the judge will just render a judgment that is clearly at variance with evidence given. We'll go on appeal. The good thing about judiciary is that if you feel aggrieved at the lower court, you have a right to approach the upstairs. You go to Court of Appeal and then to Supreme Court, which is the final court of the land. And there's no way the client will keep on bribing throughout from this into the Supreme Court.
Some persons have the money.
They have but I can also tell you that there are some persons within the judicial sector that will turn down these things, and one day, the briber, whoever you call him, will become a victim of his bribery. So I am saying in effect that I have not been a participant or one, and I have not seen any, but I hear it. There is one particular lawyer who told me that a brief was taken away from him. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria who is also a Christian. A brief was taken away from him when he was, asked by his client whether he can also reach out to the judges with certain amount of money, and he said, "No, I don't. It's not part of my practice." And they took away that brief and gave it to another lawyer, who eventually succeeded in the case and all that. So there are situations like that we hear. But it's not something that is too rampant the way no, it's not. It's not something. It's few corrupt elements that are within the judicial sector and also within the legal profession that engage in that. But very soon also they are always being exposed one way. Some judges have left the judiciary in a very disgraceful manner because of their engagement in corrupt practices.
Age falsification.
Imagine judges engage in falsifying their ages in order for them to remain in the service.
All right, interesting. It is still the platform, the pinnacle of all discussion, and of course it is Nigeria Judiciary in retrospect, as we're counting down to 2020 with certain agenda for the new year 2021 for the judiciary sector. We take a break now. When we return, we'll look at the fight against corruption. Is corruption fighting back? That's a very big question we will be finding answers to, and of course some cases decided through the judiciary during the year 2020, and of course the emergence of Olumide Akpata as the NBA president, despite divergent opinions that he's not a senior advocate of Nigeria and some other issues that surrounded his emergence as the president of the association. We take a break now. When we return, we continue the conversation this morning on the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions, right here on Flow 94.9 FM. 94.9 FM. We've got conducive and well-secured environment for business. High-tech video studio, a state-of-the-art production studio. You can also listen live on www.flow949fm.com and watch our videos on YouTube at Flow FM TV. Flow 94.9 FM, not just radio, but a complete broadcasting house. Yes, it is still the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions, right here on Flow 94.9 FM Wednesday edition. And it is the last Wednesday in the month of December, and of course the year 2020. We're counting down just a day to go to 2021. We have less than 48 hours. And of course we're looking at the judiciary in retrospect, Nigeria's judiciary in retrospect for the year 2020. And of course we've been speaking with the former second vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Barrister Monday Ubani. We've looked at several issues as far as the judiciary is concerned. I would like to take Barrister on the emergence of Olumide Akpata, or a barrister, emerging the winner of the Nigerian Bar Association as the chairman during the national elections that took place this year after defeating two other contestants who are senior advocate of Nigeria. That win made him the NBA's first non-SAN president in years, but it was not without crisis from some senior advocates of Nigeria and the body of SANs who felt the NBA president should only remain with the SANs. And Akpata won the election with a total of 9,891 votes of a total of 18,256 ballot cast, and while his closest rival, Babatunde Ajibade SAN, polled 4,328 votes, and Delia Adeshino SAN also polled 3,982 votes. But of course, his decision to contest for the position was initially met with mixed reactions. Now, I don't know what will be your reaction to his emergence as the chairman of the NBA.
President.
The president, rather. Sorry about that. The president of the NBA. And it came with a lot of reactions, especially from the body of SANs.
Yes, I want to say this. There is no legal requirement that for you to be the president of the Nigerian Bar Association that you must be a senior advocate of Nigeria. There's no such requirement. The requirement is that you must have practiced law up to 15 years. And then some other
which he met.
And some other legal requirement which he met, as rightly pointed out. And I tell you this, the body of senior advocates, they are few in number. The majority of lawyers are non-senior advocates, and they decide, which is actually what happened this year, who should govern them. Yeah,
he appealed to the conscience of young lawyers.
Appealed to the conscience, to them, and he got them, convinced. Over time, we have had senior advocates of Nigeria who had presided over the leadership of NBA, and maybe the majority of lawyers are feeling that they are not getting that adequate representation and care, from those senior body of senior advocates that have presided over the affairs of NBA. So when that issue became public knowledge that even the senior advocates were now trying to blackmail the lawyers by saying that they would not allow a non-senior advocate, and that memo leaked. When that memo leaked, and got to the knowledge of the entire constituency, and that the majority of the lawyers are non-senior advocates, it's okay, since it has become issue as if it is a constitutional requirement for senior, and it's not. We will now want to prove a point that you don't need to be a senior advocate of Nigeria for you to be the president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Senior advocate position is a privilege. It's a privilege that is being given, and then there are many good lawyers who are not senior advocates, very good, fantastic advocates. They may not be interested in getting that privilege award.
Okay.
Yeah, there are many lawyers who may not. Initially, I was not interested in it because I don't like all this issue of class stuff. But when it became very obvious that every year when names have been mentioned, my own name is not there, people will be, but Mr. Bani, why is your name not there and all that? So it became imperative on me that I should also begin to look for it too, because others will want it to be there. You know what I mean? So there are those who may not, by virtue of their character and all that, they don't want all that senior advocate of a thing. And there are so many. I'm telling you this. I've met them and they say they're not going to pursue.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a good lawyer.
Oh my God! There are many fantastic. Because there are many senior advocates who cannot even advocate anything. Because yes,
like you mentioned, there is a class that goes with it. When you mention barrister this and the next is SA.
It's like Nigeria is a class. It's a class society. It's a class society. Doctor this, professor. We like titles and all that. So. Also, we are I think in Ghana they have even outlawed it, and some other countries that even follow suit. They're no longer interested in all that. But here we value titles, and so that's why also some people, even when they know you to be a very good lawyer, they will say, they still want a senior advocate. Funny enough, why people even now decide to look whether by fire by force, they must also try to get it. Is that sometimes you are doing a very good case that you're almost on the verge of winning. All of a sudden, somebody says he needs a senior advocate to join you, and he's ready to pay any amount of money. Meanwhile, you who have done all the job, you tell them to pay some amount, they're not ready. But because the senior advocate comes in and you mention any amount, so some people say, okay, why won't I get it? Then let me go for it. If it is, what Nigerians want and respect. We respect, as I said earlier, issue of class in this country. That's why you see a lot of people go. So it's not a requirement for presidency of the bar. You can be a very good lawyer, very good advocate, somebody that is known nationwide and even worldwide. And you may not want to be a senior advocate. You may not want to. But if you want to be, fine, go ahead and pursue it. And by grace of God, you also could get it if you meet all the requirements. Requirement is that you have number of cases you must have handled both at the lower appellate and the Supreme Court, and then meet all of that, so that requirement. Then with political,
there are some political
that goes with it. So if you are not ready for it, don't venture. But if you are ready, and God is with you, my dear brother, there is nothing any man. There has been some of our brothers here in Abia who eventually have become one of my friend, Paul Ananaba, Doctor Paul Ananaba is a friend. We share, our office is very close to each other in Lagos. I knew when he was pursuing it, and eventually he became Wokukutu, for many years. Eventually he became from Ngwa Axis. There are so many of our people who are now lining up also. So by the grace of God, we begin to have many senior advocates also from Abia State.
We've been so divided along a religious line in Nigeria, along ethnic line in Nigeria, and it's also featured during the year in review 2020 in the Judiciary.
Yes.
Now, I'm bringing up the case of El Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, who was disinvited as the speaker at the August annual general conference, and it began messy as a splitter group. The new Nigeria Bar Association emerged shortly after that controversial election of the new NBA leadership. The disinvitation of El Rufai to the NBA conference as a guest speaker, it sparked more crisis in the association, and in less than a week after the announcement of its creation, one of the conveners of the new Nigeria Bar Association, Abdul Basit Suleiman, claimed 5,000 lawyers had already subscribed to the membership of the NNBA. Now, in my analysis, what I saw that happened is the fight between southern part of the country and the northern part of the country, taken into the judiciary through the lawyers. I don't know what you make of what happened, Barrister.
The anger and disenchantment started with the election itself, where some people lost, and they felt that the election wasn't free and fair, and they were ready to create a splinter group. That was even when the anger started. Then came the disinvitation that was extended to El Rufai, which you rightly mentioned. He was invited. But the point was that there was no approval of NEC for that invitation. It was when the matter was brought before NEC. There was a committee that was set up to plan for the conference. And when they were planning, they had El-Rufai penciled down to be one of the guest speakers. Normally, when you have those guest speakers, you must get back to NEC. These are the people you are inviting for this particular program for them to approve. They didn't do all that. And before you know it, the name of El-Rufai came up, and it was discovered that El-Rufai does not have a good human rights record, and he cannot be given a platform in NBA for him to come and speak when virtually in everything he has been found wanting. He has fought against human rights. He has violated people's rights, and so many even the rule of
obedience of court,
and all that. So they felt that this man shouldn't be given such a privileged position in NBA, by coming to be a speaker. So they now disinvited him, and so some people felt aggrieved, and then that decision was taken by NEC, comprising chairman and secretaries of all branches in the federation. It's the highest, apart from general AGM, annual general meeting, decision making body. So it's very surprising that some people now took it along ethnic and religious line and felt that, because he's a Muslim or because he's a Christian, and all that. And then now say they were going to form a splinter group, and the name new, of course, it was an organization that was dead on arrival. There was no reason for it. Of course, it's a constitutional issue. Before you can, create a new body, you have to go through the House and National Assembly. And there are some other processes that have to be undertaken. It has to be registered by even Corporate Affairs Commission, if the body. Let's assume. Now, can that new body be registered when you have Nigerian Bar Association? You now call it New Nigeria. This is a name that is similar to the CIF, and there's nobody that can register such an association that is similar in name to Nigerian Bar Association. So it was an association that was clearly dead on arrival, and we said it on all the platform, on radio and television. I spearheaded that call that particular association is dead on arrival, and it remains so.
I would like us to analyze the judgment of the some judgments made by the Apex Court, that's the Supreme Court, just before we throw the line Supreme. But we'll take a break now. When we return, we talk about what EFCC described as technical ambush by the Apex Court, the judgment that sets free Senator Roger Uzokalu and Olisametu's reversal also. We look at some of this Apex Court decision, and we throw the lines open this morning on the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions on Flow 94.9 FM.
94.9 FM. We've got conducive and well-secured environment for business. High-tech video studio, a state-of-the-art production studio. You can also listen live on www.flow949fm.com and watch our videos on YouTube at Flow FM TV. Flow 94.9 FM, not just radio, but a complete broadcasting house.
Well, thank you very much for staying tuned. Now, let's look at the fight against corruption, looking at the judiciary in retrospect for the year 2020. So, in what the chairman of the Economic and the Financial Crimes Commission described as technical ambush, the Apex Court on May 8th, that's the 8th of May 2020, delivered a judgment in this appeal of Ude Jones Udeogu, one of the co-defendants of former governor of Abia State, Senator Roger Uzokalu, allowing the appeal on the ground that Section 398, subsection 7 of the ACGJA, of course, which allows an elevated high court judge to go back to the court below to complete part-heard criminal matters, is unconstitutional. Now, we're going to link this particular judgment with Olisametu's conviction and reversal. Olisametu was also convicted this year. That was in the month of February, and reversed this month of December. Interesting times, and many persons are saying, well, it seems corruption is fighting back. At the end of the day, the Buhari's administration say, well, I'm fighting corruption, but he has not been able to convict people and say, you are guilty of these charges, some of these charges, and you are found wanting. What do you make of some of these cases delivered, determined by the Apex Court of the land, the Supreme Court?
We should try as much as possible to separate sentiment from facts and reality. Most times I see sentiment being branded about, and people want to force you to accept sentiment in place of evidence. and law. You know, it was a very grave error for the judge who has been elevated to the Court of Appeal to now come below to come and deliver judgment, because at the time he came to deliver that judgment, he was no longer the court of the Federal High Court. He was not the judge of the Federal High Court, sorry. He's now the judge of the Court of Appeal.
He's been elevated.
He's been elevated. So when they amended, when they inserted that provision in AJA, they did not also ensure a corresponding amendment to the provision of the Constitution, because the Constitution, determines who is the judge of the Federal High Court, who now will give judgment in order to convict or acquit. So at that time, he was not a judge of the Federal High Court. That is the fundamental error. And when any law that is enacted by the National Assembly conflicts with the provisions of the Constitution, that law will be declared null and void to the extent of its inconsistency. AJA was at variance with the provision of the Constitution. And of course, Constitution is the ground norm. So that's the fundamental issue. And there is no way a judge of the Court of Appeal can be a judge of the Federal High Court. That is fundamental. And I don't want people to begin to express sentiment. Now, Orji's acquittal was not on merit. EFCC was bragging that time. Immediately Orji comes back, they will return to court. Up to now, have they returned to court? So, his issue of not let us know where to put the blame. The judiciary will always act on facts. The judiciary will always act within the ambit of the law. It is not on sentiment or public opinion. I had a case I handled, for a client, where EFCC alleged that the woman has stolen 69 billion. Hey, and of course it was published all over. Of course, with that, you will arouse people's anger and consciousness. Oh, this woman has stolen so much. When I went into the case, I discovered that 69 billion was the total budget for 5 years for that agency. So how could one single person single-handedly take 69 billion? So for all those 5 years, there was no salary being paid. There were no administrative this and all that. You know this sentiment and all this issue of using the press. That's what the EFCC does. When I now came into the issue, and now okay, when they started the investigation, where is the 69? Trace the money now. EFCC could not. So what they were interested now was in the property of the woman, and I said, look at the EFCC. But you have already told the public, so they ran into problem. The next thing they did now was to do all manner of abracadabra to drive the woman back. And then, me now that was defending the woman, and they came after me. Are you following me? They are the one that drove the woman back to the country, abroad. And me, I was the one that brought the woman back from abroad and said, come and face your trial. Come if you say you are innocent. I brought the woman single-handedly to EFCC. When I brought the woman to EFCC, they were surprised. Oh, this woman listened to you to come and say, yes, let's go ahead with the trial. Let's go ahead with the... They were not ready for 5 months. They were not ready to charge the woman to court. Telling you that all this issue of using the press most times and arouse, and the people's court will now judge. So when it comes to reality, proving the evidence before the court, you cannot. They now say judiciary has compromised. Whereas the evidence was lacking from beginning. Right. It is issue of investigation and prosecution, my brother. Very critical.
We need to get reactions on the phone lines before we step out of the studio this morning on the platform 0808 182 6949 or 0811 605 2949. Also drop messages on 0906 510 8289. Hello, good morning to you.
Yeah, very good morning to you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning to you, to your guest in the studio.
Yeah, Michael, you're welcome.
What's your name?
I think my name is Smile. I'm calling from Obama here.
All right.
Let me tell you, this Buhari presidency can't ever fight corruption. I will say it again and again. Because anytime, even though we tried, everything gets worse in the country. But they have failed already, and it's not making anything up to this. Already his tenure is almost to his soul. I don't see any effort you can make to fight corruption. I think, and the question I want to ask your guest there in the studio, the election was done in Imo State, and the elected governor was dismissed suddenly, and the person that was not elected was immediately put as the governor of Imo State. And let's ask that if the people decided that the person is not the person that elected as the governor of Imo State.
Quickly wrap up with that, please.
Why is the Federal High Court decided that he must go there, or is this because of the other governor was not a member of the party?
All right, Lobster, thank you very much. Hello, good morning to you. 0808-182-6949 or 0811-605-2949. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Michael.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Ubani.
Yeah, my own brother. Morning. How are you, sir?
Hello. We've got issues with the line, so let's take the next call. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, my brother. My name is Prince from Umaya.
You're welcome, Prince.
I listened to Barr Ubani on Judiciary financial autonomy. My brother, if to some court in Abia State, particularly some magistrate court, you cannot breed rabbits there. They are like dilapidated.
Yes.
So our courts are bad, but everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Go to magistrate court.
Yeah.
Almost in all the local governments of this state,
I agree with you.
you cannot breed rabbits
That's
there.
right. That's right.
Go to Bend and see Melitiga.
Even in Ikuano.
Even in Ukwana, thank you. Go to my house. Mention them. The courts are bad. The magistrates are suffocating. You cannot sit there for like 2 hours without being choked. The courts are being supported with wooden sticks, blocks, and all that. They are nice saw to judiciary.
Yes.
So financial autonomy is the way to go.
That's right.
I am not there. I am only a litigant. But
he's not even a lawyer, and he knows all this. Imagine an outsider knows everything they wrote in the system.
I do appreciate you. Thank you for your contribution. That's another review. Hello, good morning to you. Yes, we can hear you. All right, Sir Ike, welcome back.
Yeah, like I wanted to say that, first of all, I want to commend Barrister for being fair in his judgment and analysis in this issue. But the truth is that we have this in this country. The presidency, the EFCC, and the judiciary remains a major problem. Like you rightly analyzed, the evidence that is usually brought before the court can easily be overturned. Like you said, until we find a way to follow matters without sentiment and emotion.
Thank you, sir.
This country would have been a better place. So I would right now want to advise the presidency to follow matters without sentiment based on who belongs to a particular party or who is loyal to a particular party. Otherwise, that is the only. Don't do that. Country will not have any headway.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We need to step out of the studio right now. Top of the hour, we have a COVID-19 update coming up. Barrister Monday Ubani, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic year in the judiciary, I believe, for you and of course your colleagues, the judges, the lawyers, and of course the clerks too, the registrars too of those courts. Thank you very much for the
editorial analysis. It's been my pleasure. Anytime I'm in Umaya, I always love to be in Flow FM.
Of course, we do really appreciate also your virtual contributions and also on some of the issues in the nation. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
The program returns on Friday, which will be the first edition for a new year 2021. Thank you very much. Many thanks to the producer Samson Eze. My name is Michael Oni.